and thank you for joining us for the series of talks, The New Life with Rav Laitman. Hello, everyone. Hello, Nitsa Mazuz. And we're talking about health. You are welcome to join us. We're learning from the Rav Laitman how to be healthier in our relation to ourselves, to life, to the people around us. And each time we're focusing on a specific topic in this series of talks. And today we've reached a topic which is very loaded. It's not pleasant. It's even painful. Today we'd like to talk about addictions. So Nitsa, some opening words. So first, maybe we can present our friends who are participating with us regularly here in the studio. So we have a mother of twins who is finding it hard to sleep, a man who has a problem with his weight, he's overweight, a high-tech engineer who has recurring back pains, a woman who has strong stomach aches, and all her tests are fine. Two friends who have a loss of appetite, and two young men who complain that they have a lack of sexual desire. So our topic for today is the topic of addiction, and this phenomenon, it controls a person. It keeps him from living a normal life, to function properly. The phenomenon itself controls the person. And usually addiction harms the person on all levels, on the physical level, on the emotional level, the level of thoughts. It also many times harms the environment, the closer environment, also the wider environment. Every person who comes in touch with someone who's under addiction can be harmed in a way. So we divide addiction to two main subjects. One is chemical addiction, when we're talking about alcohol and drugs, and the other part or subject is more behavioral addiction. It can be shopping. It can be addiction to sports, to gambling, all kinds of things. So we'd like to understand, what is addiction exactly? I would divide all these things to many, many more levels. First of all of us have certain addictions because our society through which we grow and grow up, it organizes all kinds of addictions for us. We're used to all kinds of things, all kinds of addictions from childhood, types of food, ways of life, types of thinking, types of entertainment, hanging out. I grew up, and of course, already I've become addicted to all these things. To language, to behaviors. Everything comes from home, as they say, from my parents. And this is my first addiction. Why don't we call this addiction? Because people are all experience this, and so it seems natural to us. But also this is people try to, many times they try to get out of this addiction, but it's hard over their lives. We see how hard it is if a person grew up in a certain environment, let's say an environment that's not so pleasant or good, and it's hard to help him out of it. It's also a type of addiction. Or the opposite. His character, his personality, which also a person isn't able to deal with many times because he was born this way. It's not exactly an addiction because it's attained, but it's the habits that are within a person. Either they are natural or they were acquired over time. So the fact that we only call addiction only a certain things that society calls addictions, things that bother a person, bother environment, this is just a small part. So therefore, if we really want to truly improve a person, we need to see what is it, the general matter of acquiring behavior or even new behavior. where we move from place to place. They say that if you change your place, you change your luck. What does that mean? Also, that you acquire new behaviors, a new approach. You attain that from the environment, a new outlook, a new view of life, of yourself, and so on. This is all the influence of the environment. So let's put it that way. There isn't a person who is free. He's always under the influence of the environment. But what does influence one? The environment influences a person. It compels him to behave in certain ways, and then the habit forces him to accept things from the environment and to respond to it in a certain way. And then this becomes his second nature, maybe even his third, fourth, or fifth nature. He keeps changing according to his environment, and by that he's sold. A person is a result of his environment. So then it's very important for us not to see addictions, no matter what kind, but to look at the environment as the cause of a change in a person, of changing a person. Because if the environment is strong and it influences in a varied way, influences a person in a varied way, it can change him from end to end. And these new habits become his new nature, and then you have a new person. That's how we should look at it. And so all these changes, if we want to see them in a person, it all depends not on the person himself, but on how we organize the environment. And therefore we see, and you especially should know how we should do all these coachings and all these group activities that influence a person, where he comes into the group and then he's constantly under this brainwash, even you could say, in a kind of crude way. And this changes him. And so these addictions, alcohol, smoking, and so on, there we need to isolate a person to a certain extent from the environment that causes him these addictions, and bring him to an environment that is opposite to that, which also compensate for what he had before, possibly using special activities, maybe medications, calming ones, relaxing ones, and to lead him to some new interests that will be very powerful and fulfilling, maybe some new pleasures. But still, these are new habits, because the habit becomes a second nature. It's always this way. So then our approach to dealing with addictions is this: dealing with unwanted habits. This is what I'd say. But so they say that each one of us, doesn't matter who, has a kind of preparation or predisposition that means that he could become addicted. Right, each of us has a special weakness, either to alcohol or drugs or smoking or sex, to entertainment, to all kinds of things, to all types of food. It also depends on how he grew up, what nation he belongs to, what culture, to the environment, but also to a person's nature. And here we need to take into consideration what are a person's predispositions. Alcohol, for example, you can say that Russians are naturally predisposed to become addicted to it, as opposed to other countries where you have more inclination towards drugs, and different countries have more inclination towards excess pleasures and all kinds of forms of entertainment or going out. So, but the treatment is the same treatment, is creating the environment which will change a person and reprogram him in this new way, and bring him new habits which will complete and bring him pleasures that are bigger, higher than the ones he had before. And here we need to take into consideration many details in his previous habits, what exactly and in what way that they change the person and to build for him a certain path or program how to overcome the addiction in accordance to who he is, what he is, where he came from, and so on. Because it's different from person to person, even though they were addicted or are addicted to the same thing. And this is how you need to work with them. So it needs to be, we need to divide people into certain groups and work with them accordingly. Okay, so I'd like for us to focus on all kinds of these addictive phenomena. When we talk about addictions, we talk about very concrete things, because if a person is an alcoholic, his entire family can be ruined. I'd like us to focus on these kind of phenomena and to understand how you see them. For example, my first question about this: how do you see the connection between emotional addiction and physical addiction? Because the addiction physically is more of an addiction to a certain substance, like alcohol or drugs, which allows a person things that life doesn't allow him without these things. So first of all, how do you see this need people have for chemical substances in order to compensate and complete what they lack, what they do not have in their life without these substances? And what is the connection between the chemical physiological level to the level of emotional satisfaction a person receives from them? So first of all, sometimes a person really comes to these things out of the pressure and grief that he feels in life and all kinds of problems that he has. And that's why he begins to take drugs or drink. But maybe he simply has entered such an environment, and it forces and pulls him towards these things, and then habit here also becomes a second nature, and he can't overcome it anymore. We know about many cases in which a person is taken and put into a closed environment where he begins to receive a daily dose of drugs forcefully, and after a few months he becomes addicted to it, and he must receive them, even though to begin with he didn't have any inclination towards that. But in this way, he was forced to, like we hear here and there about people who sell drugs, how they give them away to children for free and so on, and then they become hooked, and through the habit, these children can't overcome it, and then they're already hooked on them, and they have to buy them for much money. So what in your eyes drives a person to begin to take these substances? Let's say it's not a situation where somebody was forced to take them, but what drives a person to add a chemical substance like alcohol or drugs to his life in order to improve them? Emotionally, how do you analyze this? What does it give him? What does it give to a person? It gives him an ability to disconnect himself from problems, an emotional, internal feeling that helps him out of pressure, out of feeling these problems. He begins to feel them as easier. He feels himself happier, more free. Of course, alcohol and drugs, this is, first of all, what they bring a person. If normally we can drink a little bit and it helps us with our mood, some release from external pressures, just like we know that we can drink in society, in social drinking, like during a holiday, everybody does it. Even it's not considered a drug, even though it is a drug, but still it raises your mood in an artificial way. So it's also a certain type of drug, but we all agree to it. It's culturally accepted, and it's not considered addiction unless a person uses it all the time in a way that it changes his course of life. But if he uses it in special events, whether he's on vacation, then it's fine. We need to separate. Well, that's clear, and I think it's clear to everybody. But someone who's addicted, say, to alcohol is a person that finishes his day with a bottle and causes himself and his environment a lot of trouble. And it's as if his life is separated into two people. There is the times in life where this person is with the bottle and the times where he's not with a bottle. He can be a very successful person, a lawyer or an accountant, doesn't matter what, but it's as if he's got two people inside him, the normal person and the person who finished his day completely drunk. So I'm not talking about even the level of a person who drinks from morning till night, but how do you see modern life, our society today in the 20th century, 21st century, as a society in which people more and more need these escapes from life, these disconnections from reality on a regular basis, and they develop an addiction towards it. So how do you see it from your point of view? I'm not even talking about just the normal habits. I'm talking about addictions. I see it as a result of our modern life, where we do not take care of people normally, properly. All society wants from a person is for him to be sick and not sick. He wants to be sick for shopping and addicted to all kinds of things, not specifically to drugs and alcohol, but to help somebody out there make a lot of money, just like drugs. If there was no great gain from it, then they wouldn't develop so far, because everything happens through as long as there's somebody who makes a profit off of it. And it's the same with alcohol. It wouldn't be so in use if corporations and companies, if it wasn't worthwhile for them to put in so much money for the advertising and pushing it everywhere. We don't notice so much, but we constantly see beer on television lately. Let's say for the last 10 years, everybody's just begun drinking beer, because beer is not really considered alcohol. But we already know through research that addiction to beer is more dangerous than addiction to vodka or whiskey. It's very difficult to disconnect from it, to overcome it. And on the other hand, it's okay if he drinks a bottle, and then in another hour he needs another bottle and another one. And this is how he holds himself up constantly, from morning till evening. There's somebody out there who makes a great profit off of that, for the manufacturers and those who sell it. And it's the same with drugs. So it all depends on the environment and society. But what about the person? What does the person feel? The one who uses them? How can you analyze this phenomenon on the part of the person himself? Of course, it's a good business. These are industries that roll millions of dollars. But how can you analyze the state of the person, his emotional state, what he lacks, what he receives from it, what does it give him in life, how does it compensate for what he lacks, what does he get from it emotionally, personally? We are only a will to receive pleasure, a will to receive. All of us, all humans. And if we cannot fulfill ourselves and fill ourselves up through all the different types of our occupations, not in the family, not at work, not and when we go out, and not at all. If very essential existential questions come up, even subconsciously, a person doesn't understand them, but he feels bad inside. He feels this empty space which he doesn't know how to fill, and he doesn't see anything that attracts him because he sees a lack of fulfillment in everything. To begin with, he's already smart enough to see forward, and he's so developed, and he's born when he already sees that the world is so small, and he's not able to get along with that. He lacks this drug of life, the drug of joy, of happiness. He doesn't have it. Once, 100 or 200 years ago, there were people with with egos that weren't so developed or big, and they were happy with what they had. Thank God they had the family and something to eat and enough money from their job where one could satisfy a certain level of life. And today, a person is not happy with that. He needs special artificial actions like going on vacation, going out in the evening to change his friends and girlfriends and whatnot. And also, he doesn't really find any pleasure in that. This began in the 50s in the last century, with all kinds of such distortions. The flower kids and the hippies and all kinds of forms of sex and behavior and so on. This is all a result of our will to receive, the will to enjoy, which remains empty. However, no matter what we give it, it already demands satisfaction from a higher level, the fulfillment of the meaning of life. And if it's not there, it's better for me to feel life. So I lower myself. I need to repress these questions. I need to find myself happy with what I have. How do I do this? So I drink a little bit. I take a special cigarette with drugs in it. I even give myself a shot. I don't know anymore how to bring myself to a state where I can tolerate this life, even though I'm successful. I make good profits. I am able to provide myself with whatever I need or want, but there's nothing I want. I've already gone on trips all over the world. I've changed families and marriages a number of times. I don't know what else, what more is there in life? There's nothing left. But I want to be happy. I want to be joyful. Who will help me do this? I put on the TV, and what do I find there except for murders and thefts? And such programs that I'm not happy with. I can't even see a nice comedy that will make me glad. The society pressures me from all sides in such ways that I don't know how to escape these troubles. Everywhere I see negative forms, negative patterns, behavior between people, in theater and in the movies and on the internet. Look at the networks that have built up. Where will I escape to? A person seeks for a place of calm. It's not that he wants to be like a vegetable, no. But it's an internal peace where he'll feel himself in a kind of wholeness to a certain extent. And first, before, it was enough for him if he went on vacation, he went on some trip, if he went at evening to hear some music or to the theater or something. And today, it's not enough for us anymore, and we have this in plenty. I sit in front of the computer, I can push any button, bring myself now, immediately, everything, but I don't feel like it, because my lacks, my desires, are on a much higher level. And so, in accordance to these present desires that I have that are awakened within me, I can't bring them fulfillment. What are lacks? Lacks are wanting to be in a good feeling and to feel happy with something that satisfies me, that fulfills me. And actually, satisfaction comes from a feeling of being full, that my life is full. What are they full with? So it's like I said before, it was family, work, home, children, and I feel full. Afterwards, there was the matter of tourism that developed and entertainment. But it finished. I'm not satisfied with it anymore. I don't want a family. I don't go anywhere to have fun. What can I do? It's just this music that bangs and all the time and drives you nuts. So people go there, but just the young ones and person in also these places have become a source of drugs, a drug market and alcohol. So rightfully, a person feels that he's empty. And this is from the top executives who have lots of money to simple people and the young people who, for even from the lowest section of society. And you have today 20-30% of people who are unemployed. And the governments are afraid that they'll go out on the street and they'll start breaking things and they'll cause national problems. So they're given something to satisfy themselves with life, but the emptiness they feel, they don't study, they don't work, they don't have families, they can't build anything. They can't attain a profession. These people are helpless on the one hand. On the other hand, the drugs and alcohol show up and people sell them as cheap as possible everywhere. So of course a person, when he finds himself so empty on the one hand and pressured on the other hand, and all of society feels this, and everywhere, even though it's hidden from us, you can see movies. Everywhere you see that people drink and talk about drugs, even if they relate to it negatively, this phenomenon becomes very close to me. And also the media talks about it. There are lots of pictures of it. So it turns out that a person is always close to these things and can easily find drugs and alcohol and fill himself with them. And these things are very close to us. So there's no other choice but to begin to educate the entire society about this, to a different way of relating between us, and to begin with, to show that alcohol, drugs, and these pressuring forms of behavior need to be taken out of society. But why would they? What would replace them? We need to give a person a feeling of connection to others, and that so that he'll know that he can find a much greater fulfillment there than he does from drugs, alcohol, or any other type of addiction. Or asked, why not? Why haven't they done it yet today? Well, they are not organizing it for them. We need to organize this. We need to bring this to a person. We need to bring him to such groups, to such societies, small ones that will influence him. And then this society, this environment will expand. And there will be support from the media, from the TV, from all kinds of, from everyone. And it's not just that a part of society will heal him and the other part will destroy him. Yeah, but today friends sit together with alcohol and drugs, and he has friends already today. It's not that the person is isolated. He's got partners for these things. They do things together. People surround me today as well if I'm addicted to something. So how will it change me if you bring me more people? You said we need to educate towards relations to a new world where there won't be drugs and alcohol. So what will fill me instead of these substances? First of all, one needs to understand that this emptiness that we're talking about is an emptiness for a new level of life. Let's say they're spiritual. They're on such a level where we connect and find in this connection between us the source of joy and happiness. And if we organize our lives in this way, so that really people will know through these workshops and talks and connections between them in the correct way that we need to organize in a special method, if we bring it to them, they'll feel by that full satisfaction, and they won't need, it will be relatively easy for them to overcome their old habits. And a person will learn how to receive satisfaction from connection. And according to nature, this is the answer to this feeling of emptiness that brings people to repress this desire with drugs. We're not giving this desire within us that's growing now in our ego. We're not giving it satisfaction and fulfillment. We're only repressing it, which is why instead of the development, we're bringing ourselves down to even to the animal level or even the vegetative level. You see what happens to people who use drugs and alcohol, how they live. All they do is only to receive a little more drink or drugs so that they could go and lie back down. This is the form of the vegetable or plant, however much life it has within it. So we need to understand that fulfillment is not there. This is not fulfillment. It's repressing the desire. And the fulfillment of the desire is only if we raise a person higher above that to the fulfillment that will be appropriate for his desire, for his lack. And the lack, it's just like with our general crisis now, just like it explains to us, that this is a lack to the right connection between people, where in this connection of everyone together, we discover there, it's not just so that we will all feel good, just like in kindergarten. We don't want to lower ourselves to this nice kind of little animal situation, little animals that are doing something childish. By this, we are searching between us, in this connection between us, an internal new form of life, a special form of life. It's hidden there. This is the next level or degree of humanity, which is in harmony and balance with nature and with itself, in unity and connection. And here we'll discover this new level. And this level will bring a person this new level, the human level, the speaking level. And it is actually the answer to all of these addictions and in general to all the problems in our life. How is it the answer? The answer comes from connection. Inside connection, we find the answer. We have to bring them to workshops, to round tables, to discussions, to coming closer together. And suddenly a person begins, despite his ego that resists it, he begins to see that inside this connection, he finds a kind of fulfillment of a higher level of life than before. Even though his reason, because it's against our nature, now we need to create a kind of internal crisis against the external crisis. We need to break ourselves. We need to begin to relate differently in a new way to society, to the environment. I'd like to understand something. You spoke of the fulfillment that is right for our lack. And until now, what you talked about is our emptiness. And with talks that we had before with people who went through such states of addiction and are considered clean, because a person who's addicted is addicted for good. Actually, a person cannot be healed from his addiction, but he can remain a clean addict, one who doesn't use the substance anymore. And many times, they said that many times it's not really because of emptiness. It can be even because of a great success that a person felt, where he felt such a great emotional excitement where he didn't know what to do with it. And then he felt that maybe he doesn't deserve all the goodness that came to him and all this great fame that he got. So this is how people explained why they took the drugs or alcohol. Well, this happens under the influence of the environment, like you have in the bohemians, like actors and singers. So this is something else. Yes, here it's because of great pressures that come from competition, from a desire to loosen up a little bit, get free from these races, endless races after success, which demand a person to demand the last forces, the last powers of a person for him to be able to maintain the course that he's at least as far as he gotten to. He needs to continue it. So this takes a lot of power from him. So we need to understand that this is not a good life. As it's not as good as they say it is, but they can't really open up the problem and see it in the right way. It's all because of pressure. We're not aware of the pressure that a person feels when he reaches such success among those celebrities. So really, one of the reasons that people start using drugs or alcohol is because of this desire to control reality. We know that reality controls us. We can wake up in the morning with a certain mood or a different mood, or even during the day. And somewhere, there's a desire to control our fate. I want to decide what mood I have today. I want to decide what energies I'll have for this meeting. I want to determine what happens to me. So the question here is, how can there be such a situation where at the beginning there is such an ability to control it, but then quickly the opposite happens. Instead of we controlling the situation begins, the drug begins to control the person himself. So the question is really how this need to control life, which is the initial desire which brings a person to take drugs. So how can a person control life without it? Is there such a possibility? Well, this depends on the environment. What do you mean controlling? Maybe it's better to just loosen the reins and flow. If I'm certain that I'm in a good environment, that I don't need to constantly be under pressure and armed in efforts to defend myself from others, from the environment, from those who are in competition with me, and so on. We can see ourselves differently. If we are in this good environment, then I don't need it. It all depends on how we change the environment. We can't really determine it here because nature pulls us in a certain direction. And if we don't advance in this direction ourselves, then we feel a negative pressure. And so more and more we won't be able to handle drugs and alcohol with pills and all kinds of drugs, even prescription drugs like relaxing drugs. It all has to do with this problem, this pressure that a person feels in life. Why won't we be able to deal with it? Because until we fulfill our desire, we will only get worse and worse. We'll need these drugs more and more. We'll need this compensation more and more. Because whether I want to or not, my desire, each and every day, it requires a more clear answer from me. What am I living for? What is my fulfillment? What do I have from all of this? And either I am for the meantime, I find myself depressed, or I start taking drugs, and from that I start taking something worse, where I have no choice. The lack of satisfaction and fulfillment brings us all the problems. If a person is fulfilled, if he's satisfied, he knows he has a purpose in life, he has what to attain, and it's in his reach, then why should he use anything? It's all a result of internal emptiness, and it grows more and more. If 20, 30, or 40 years ago it was just the beginning of this desperation in the world, then today you see that it's 20 or 30% who are sick from this. It's an illness, desperation, depression, normal depression. It's an illness. And as a result of that, people go to alcohol and drugs and so on. A person can be depressed even though he seems happy to you. this person who is an actor or a very good lawyer, but he's constantly under pressure. In Wall Street, they're always taking something, right? Because life is this way. They're constantly in competition. You can't cope with life otherwise. So this is exactly my question, because if this certain substance enables a person to cope, so then what's wrong with that? Let's say he's able to cope and function. Right, but he develops the same environment around him and also his kids. Everybody feels it. Everybody's already in it. So this is exactly the question. Where is it heading? Where to the collapse of everything, because we are in a general global crisis. It's Wall Street, and everyone will collapse at the end of the day, with drugs, without drugs, it doesn't matter, because this is multifaceted crisis, and it's not the problem is not drugs. It's the problem of emptiness, and the result of it is depression, and drugs, and terrorism, rape, everything we have in our life. If our nature is a will to receive, and this will to receive is not fulfilled, then this is the source of all the negative phenomena. Why am I not fulfilled? Let's say I'm very successful at what I'm doing. I wanted something and I attained it. Right, let's say for now you're satisfied with that for a while. First of all, you put it as a goal for yourself. Now you're a lawyer, now you're successful, now you have everything. But after a while, as usual, just like with this whole game, just like with every game, you've had enough with it. Does this also what happen with addictions, where the substances in a certain dosage don't satisfy me anymore, then I need more and more to increase the dosage? Right, because there's a habit in everything. Our ego always grows, and we need to compensate for it all the time because of its growing emptiness. And then I constantly need to increase the dosage. So really, we're living in search for this ultimate drugs that never ends and has no negative side effects. Well, you can say it's a drug, but it's called the drug of life. What is the drug of life? It's that snake, but except for the drug of death, it brings you the drug of life. When you bring your will to receive, which is called the snake, who? Your egoistic desire. It is called the snake. It puts you to death. It eats you up from the inside. Which desire? Your egoistic desire to enjoy. What's wrong with enjoying? Everybody wants to enjoy. No, enjoying isn't bad. The problem is you're not giving it the right cure, the right fulfillment. Because there's no satisfaction. No, and then it eats you up all the time. That's why it's called the drug of death, or the bad snake. And then there's the good snake, which heals you, which is the symbol of medicine. How? By taking your will to receive and beginning to use it towards others, together with others, by organizing a good environment. And inside this environment, where we're all small snakes, if we want to hold them back a little bit and reach connection between us, suddenly we see that we're given the drug of life instead of the drug of death. Who gives it to us? Our small snakes, our ego. If we aim it to the good, to the connection with others, it turns into the good life, into satisfaction. The snake becomes fulfilled. It doesn't eat you. It receives fulfillment, satisfaction from being connected to others. All we need to change is our approach to the relations between us. What is the essence of this change? Love instead of hatred. There are drugs that help you love, that help you connect to people. Yes, but it's drugs, it's not you. I don't understand. By this, you don't change your snake. You don't change your nature. You have to change your nature. Instead of being in repulsion and distancing yourself from others. You have to be together with them inside you as one man and one heart. Heartfully, you have to come closer to people. This is how what our development is requiring from us now. That is why we're discovering in every situation that we depend on each other. So what's wrong with people using chemicals to do this? That's not coming closer. I have a doctor who told me that many people come to him and ask him, what's wrong with us taking a substance like this or like that that help them be more connected to others, that help them be more loving, less hateful? Because it's not a correction. It's not the correction of our nature. They do this artificially. It's not they who do it. It's a drug within them that now raises them onto this trip to some level that they begin to supposedly be more social. So let's say we would give all people a substance that makes people more friendly. Then I'm asking you, why shouldn't we? No, I'm asking you. No, I'm asking, why doesn't humanity want to do this? Why doesn't it agree to it? Let's give everybody drugs. Yeah, that's what I'm asking. There are substances that close a person off, but there are some that open you up and they make a festival. So let's take airplanes and drop this chemical onto people and make people love each other. Why not? These substances, these drugs have been known to humanity from its first days, from mushrooms, from all kinds of things that were invented, and all those shamans who used them already tens of thousands of years ago. Why are these things over our entire history, the history of humanity, why didn't they go into our normal culture, regular culture? Well, look, there are some countries where some of these things are prohibited. They are available, and there are some parties that inhibit this. You are asking me why it didn't enter society, so I'm telling you. You can't hear. You're not hearing me. Humanity, throughout its history, is full of hatred, of murders, of wars, of problems. From problems in families and to between families, between communities and countries and all over the world. There is no moment in life of a person where he's not under stress. There is no time in history in which a number of wars did not take place at once. So I'm asking you, why didn't humanity use drugs? Why isn't it using drugs? Of course it's using drugs. No, I'm sorry, that's not true. Let's say when I was a bit younger, most of the people I knew used some drugs regularly. I'm talking about history. People do not go on a regular trip so that they'll feel themselves on a regular high level, nice level, so that they won't go into wars to be good kids. Why? And why do they have such blockages, prohibitions in regards to this? Why now doesn't humanity agree to it? I'm asking you. Why doesn't the United Nations in the World Health Organizations or in the United Nations, why don't they take a decision and enough with our problems? Drugs are very cheap. They don't even cost anything almost. Let's say, I don't even know, your glass of water costs more than drugs for one day. I'm telling you seriously. It's not much. So let's give it to everyone. Let's add it to the water or to something that we all use. And that's it. We'll finish with all these problems. Just like the country puts chlorine in the water, let it just add some of this and everybody will walk around like zombies, smiling to one another. Look at Nitsa. She'll walk around all day just like that. Why not? I'm asking you. You're asking me. I asked this 10 minutes ago. You said that people need to go from hatred to love. Just put that in the water. Why won't they agree to it? I don't know. Because it's against nature. It's against the plan of nature. There is higher providence here, general guidance of nature here, because of the way that nature wants to evolve and progress. It needs to bring a person to a higher level than the one we're on right now. And in order to bring us to this higher level, we can only do it through this lack of fulfillment of the current situation. And this is why this lack of satisfaction will only grow, and it will be completely black. It will be death, ultimate death, until we decide that there is no choice. We have to rise up to a higher level of relations between us and to this general world and nature. Without drugs. Why without them? Without drugs, because otherwise we will not fulfill the plan of creation. I didn't understand. Let's take a shortcut. Why should we wait? But you are not raising a person above. You're lowering him. Still, vegetative animal speaking. Instead of reaching the speaking level, you bring him back down to the vegetative level. Right now, we're on the animal level. We need to reach the speaking level, the level which is like to nature. And we can only be alike to nature if we are close together in this one mechanism as one man in one heart, as one family. So we come from the animal level to the speaking level, to the human level. If we take drugs, we go down from the animal level to the vegetative level. Why? Because it gives us joy, even in every state, in which we don't need to run after anything. Just give me a drug and that's it. I don't care about anything. I can even be a simple worker. Everything is enough for me, just so that I can live a little bit with the few calories I need and my drug, and that's it. I don't need anything more. If I feel happy in life, then I don't need anything. I sit like this with my smile. I need to receive a bowl of soup or something a day and my drug, and that's it. That's called a vegetable. That's called a vegetable. He doesn't even need to move. You see the way they are, alcoholics, and people who take drugs, they don't need anything. And they behave nicely. Alcoholics sometimes don't. But people who are on drugs, you can walk in New York on the streets, they walk like this. He doesn't touch you, he doesn't see you. He's see-through, right? What's wrong? It's much better than if you encounter criminals or anyone. He doesn't touch you, he's quiet. Why shouldn't we do this to everyone? Let's talk about the relations between people for a moment. If I understood you correctly, this higher level, corrected level, is for all us to be loving instead of hating, right? So I still didn't understand that if I put a chemical substance in everybody's waters that will cause them to be in good relations, I didn't attain this level. Why can't we use chemicals to find this path to this love you want to reach? Because we don't want to have world wars and to wait 100 years. Let's do it now, quickly. We'll just give everyone this pill, and everybody will be in these good relations. Yeah, they all sit in a circle. Just like I say, we need to sit in a circle. And they'll go like this to each other. Everything's fine. Right, so my friend, the doctor, said that young people ask him, what's wrong with it according to this perception, this connected perception? It's very similar to grass when I go and see these plants and grow like this, one next to the other. Nobody takes the space of the other. They all have the sun. Everything's fine. This is what people will be like. What's wrong with that? You said you wanted a good relations between people. No. Instead of hate, you said you wanted love. You said, I'm not satisfied with life, because I'm in a world where everyone's competing and hating, and there are infinite pressures. And if I have an environment around me of people who relate well and calm, and they won't pressure me and won't fight me all the time, I will be happy in life and satisfied without drugs. So now the question is, why can't we, through using chemicals, to speed up this evolution? People are big egoists. There are all these competitions and struggles. Let's take some chemicals. There are certain kinds that help connection between people, and put everybody in a circle already now. Why should we wait until we suffer more and until we're wiser? Of course it's possible. We'll add it to the water. You didn't tell me why not. You can go from apartment to apartment. The doors will be open. Everyone sits quietly in the living room. Each one living happily inside within himself. He doesn't even need to talk to anyone. No, sometimes we talk. We flow. Well, it depends how much we put in their water. Yeah, it also depends what kind. So I didn't understand the answer yet. Really? Even this, you're right. Because of what's happening now, I do it. What's happening in the world. But then everyone would be like vegetables. They'll be nice and good. They wouldn't need anything. They wouldn't need to advance or anything. There's one problem. It's against our evolution. Why? Because our evolution demands us to go higher from what we are now. And we cannot go against this law. We're not able to do anything. You see that it's not in the power of any government to say, even if we make drugs free, even we can't even do that. Not to even speak about giving it freely to everyone or making it the general culture from children to grown-ups. In today's world, you have out of 7 billion people, 5 billion are not necessary. So let's just shut them up. Let's put them in Africa. Let's give Africa drugs. All the people who live there, let's give them drugs. We give them food. Let's also give them drugs inside this food. And slowly they'll calm down and they'll be happy with life. Why don't they do this? So I'm telling you, on the part of nature here, there is a guidance, a special force that is advancing us, which has advanced us all throughout all of our history, and it also advancing us onwards, which is not allowing us to do this. It's like an internal program within us that does not allow us to do this. You think that a person is on his own. There is a program inside of that is working to progress us, to advance us, and this program is called nature, and there's nothing we can do about it. Inside this program, there is my future form, and I have to reach it. Just like 1,000 years ago, it was written there that I needed to reach the present situation, the present form, and I reached it, and it's the same now. I need to reach the next form. And my next form is not to be drugged like a plant, to sit in the living room and look at some point on the wall. No. There is a different form that I have to reach where I'm connected to everyone properly, well, with love, just like love thy neighbor as thyself, and I cannot escape it. And nature won't let us do these things that are against this evolution, this advancement. And as much as it allows us to see our malfunctions, it's only so that we'll aim ourselves properly to this good goal. Only for that. And you see what's happening in humanity. What do you think? People are stupid? They don't know what we're talking about. They don't think it's good. It's easier and better. How much money are all of these levels of society given, which are useless? Whole areas of people who are not useful to themselves or to others, and still the governments do not give them drugs or anything, only because they cannot allow this to themselves. They have an internal mechanism that knows that it's not about this, and it's above them. It's above them. They can't. We don't understand how much we're run by nature. Our time for this talk is up. How can you sum up this topic of addiction? We need to understand this is a part of all of our problems, where all in all, the only cure, is integral education. There's nothing we can do. Social change through integral education of the people, and in this way, we will change the nation and change the world. And there is no other way. There isn't. To try and go against drugs as they are, you can't. Because you don't understand the ones who sell them. And you don't change anything, because someone will make a profit off of your struggle. Thank you very much, Rob Laitman. Thank you, Nitsa. Thank you for being with us. Until next time, all the best and goodbye.